when a child falls, the child just gets up and keeps running. But when an adult falls, the adult is supposed to stop and look back and find out why they feel, yeah, what made me fall. And we're getting to the point where the adults don't even know what to look back at. What they're looking back at is tainted. It's been
watered down.
Yes.
Hello and welcome once again to yet another episode of SchoolTalk Cafe. I am Sele and with me co-hosting is
Adio.
Good. Today we're going to be looking at history in our schools. The teaching of history in our schools, both at the primary school level and the secondary school level. What's this big deal about history? Let's even start from there. Why history? What's so important about history up to the point of saying, oh, it must be taught in our schools?
And taught accurately.
Yes. So what why?
A people who do not know who they are, where they come from, do not know who they are. Our identity as a people need to be taught. It helps us understand who we are. It helps us understand the richness of who we are and how to move forward. If you don't, like, there's a particular proverb I like. When a child falls, the child just gets up and keeps running. But when an adult falls, the adult is supposed to stop and look back and find out why they feel, yeah, what made me fall. And we're getting to the point where the adults don't even know what to look back at. What they're looking back at is tainted. It's been
watered down.
Yes, and so we have a generation, and we are having generations coming up who don't understand what it means to be Nigerian, who don't understand what it means to be African. Everybody wants to do what the Western world is doing, and it's not helping us in any way. I grew up in at a time not too far ago where I knew the stories of the likes of Jaja of Opobo. I knew the stories of the likes of Amina and all that, India. There were stage plays along those lines.
About
yes, I can't even pronounce that word. Too many R's in it.
It's not a word, is it?
It's a name. It's a word. Too many letter in it. So you get me.
Anyways.
Yeah, so history is key.
Picking up from where you left off, history is key. If you do not know where you're coming from, who your ancestors were, or even are, yes, what they stood for, what led them to do what they did, why you have certain customs and traditions, even though a lot of them seem to be dying off. And really, the reason why those customs and traditions are dying off is because you don't even know the history behind them. I'm saying the history again now. What do we mean by history? That collective narrative of a people, or about a people, what they stood for, how they did the things they did, how they expressed themselves, why they did the things they did, how they expressed themselves, the various forms in which they expressed themselves, musically, in literature, art, in the different forms of art, in the occupation, you know, and all of that. And then it trickles down to the dances, the ceremonies and all of that. Now, what I see in our own climb, let me use Nigeria as an example, so to speak.
As a focus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you talk to the average youngster now, not even youngster, when you even talk to people maybe from 50 down, from age 50 and below,
you have joined
yes, you have joined them. You know, and you say, oh, our culture, our tradition. Most times, that thing, culture, tradition, what rings in their mind is cultural dance. And all those things that we used to do in school, you know, and when you say culture, that's really what your subconscious stores as culture and tradition. But it's a whole lot more than that, and a whole lot deeper than that. When you see people dancing and singing and all of that, and you attribute that to everything about us, just the dancing and the singing, it's sad really, because we're a whole lot deeper than just doing that entertainment.
Yeah.
That thing was done as entertainment, but it was done at certain times, on certain occasions, for several reasons. Do we know those reasons? Do we know those occasions? Maybe those in theater arts have a little inkling, you know, as to why some of those, you know,
still remember.
And some of those, I've heard cases of some really serious dances, deep spiritual connotations, and people collapse, not because they're exhausted or anything. They evoked several things that should not have even been evoked in the first place, because they just trivialized it. They thought it was some kind of dance, and you know, everybody dancing and all that. Yes, and you know how connotative, and so many other, and you know, some of those dances were fertility dances. Some of them were war dances. You know what warriors used to do to display strength and talk about the how formidable their army was or is, you know, and all of that. Some were victory dances. Oh, they fought a war, they came back, and they want to show, oh yes, this is how we are, this is what we do, you know, and a lot of it, you know, show of force, show of aggression, you know, and all of that. And we've now taken all those dances, just mixed and matched them, and when they say, oh, come and then you just stereotype one tribe or with that particular dance. They have a whole retinue of dances expressing different things about their society and everyday living and all of that. But nobody is even telling that story, because a lot of us don't even know it.
No.
A lot of it is even lost now. When you look at Nok culture, for instance, and the pottery and the craftsmanship and all that, the Boku culture and all of that, the pottery in Kwali and places like that, you know, those things, some people are still trying to, you know, but the history behind it, rich history for that matter, is winding down gradually.
People are having to go to the museums to just see those things.
Now there seems to be a reawakening, but for me it's not even coming fast enough. You know, we've swallowed hook, line and sinker the narrative that the colonialists sold to us, that we were savages, that we were uncultured, that we were not civilized, and all that, you know. And so I ask, when people start saying things like that, I start to ask, okay, what do you mean by civilized? The word civilized comes from civil. Civil talks about organization, a structure in which a society operates, do's and don'ts, rules, regulations, norms, societal norms,
and we're doing that
expectations. Were we not doing that before anybody came?
Yes.
We had everything for everything.
Yes.
You know, even down to work life. mentorship, all those things were there, but we're not teaching all of that now.
No. And then
We're not teaching all of that now. There was a way. I mean, you were born into a particular occupation.
You were born into a particular
Yes, and it's a family thing all the way down. It was modern life civilization, the Oyibo civilization
that can get up and refuse to be part of that.
Well, I don't want to now say that a child should be shackled into a particular occupation, but you already knew that when you are born into a certain occupation, and you learned that trade. If you now decided to learn another, though I don't think the structure in the society at that time allowed for it, you were not going to be forced, but you just find out that you probably won't be successful at whatever, except you migrate from
so
that society.
They are going to they are leaving, they are going to town.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, apart from even town, I'm talking about in the ancient times when going to town was going to another town that was similar to the town you're coming from. And no, it was a 5 days walk, 2 months walk, 4 weeks walk, no bicycle, no
4 weeks.
Yes, everything was by walking. And don't forget that, except maybe the northern sides where they had horses, and it wasn't everybody who could afford a horse. It was maybe top generals, kings and co who used everybody foot, and we were all walking around like that. So if you were going to go to where your in-laws came from and you were going to pay them a visitor, you stroll down to the place. If you are not from the same village or from the same big town,
you take a 2-day walk.
Yeah, take a 2-day walk.
Say hello.
You spend some time. No, you spend some time, you come back. Interestingly, my grandfather told us stories of how he walked from our hometown in Ishaland in Edo State all the way to Calabar so that he could enlist with the army and go and fight in the First World War. But by the time he got there, the war was over.
Yeah.
This is a true life story.
No.
Everybody in my family can tell you this story.
He went from Edo to Calabar.
Yes, to go and join the army. He badly wanted to be a part of that army. And unfortunately, by the time he got there, the war don't finish.
He did not hear that. No. He didn't get the news along the line that the war was over. There was no...
Who was going to say it?
Nobody on the road.
What newspaper was he going to read?
Nobody on the road, like when it was passing, to say,
Did some people even know that there was a
war
in the first place?
Oh, wow.
And you see, he will tell you of how he will get to a settlement, work for a week or two, earn some money for his upkeep on the journey ahead, move on again, and that was normal. It
wasn't complicated.
It wasn't anything. Listen, we need to hear more of those kind of stories. One of my biggest regrets is that I did not sit down with him enough to be taping, just put a tape recorder beside him and say, tell us more, because he had a lot of all those stories. And those of us who still have aged parents like that, we should ask them questions,
Spend less time on the phone and have those
that phone thing is another,
and have those conversations.
So let's bring it home now. As we can see, history, we learn a lot from history. We learn our journey so far as a people. The mistakes we made, especially those mistakes. And that's why you say, history always repeats itself. Why? Because people don't introspect. We don't retrospect. We don't say, so what's the trend? Analyze and say, where are we coming from? Why did we fall into this kind of trap or this kind of thinking? How come we sustain this kind of thinking in negativity? So, this was a positive thing. Why didn't we sustain it? Why don't we, what can we do to make it spread wider and reinforce it, Because it worked for us then. But if we don't even know that it even existed, how do we even start to say we want to harness And that's why we are looking at the teaching of history in primary and secondary school. I dare say it used to be taught before, and for some reason or the other,
I don't know why it was removed.
I don't know the exact details now, but I don't want to say that on air because it will be very inaccurate. But there were reasons here and there, adduced for such. But the main thing is, was it a good thing or was it a bad thing? I will say unequivocally that
it was very detrimental.
It was a terrible setback for us. A lot of us have what I will call an identity crisis.
Yes.
Or an identity loss. And then with the advent of media and social media, a lot of stuff is being pushed down the throats of our children, even us. And those narratives are not helpful. And because they are not immediate things that we can see and react to, we think, oh, it's okay, it's no big deal. Meanwhile, these are things that are reinforcing certain beliefs. Beliefs that end up not even favoring us as a people. Beliefs that tend to make you see, and I use the word see, not because it is the truth, but because it is the reality that we believe in now. So we see that, oh, these people are better than us. Oh, these people are superior to us. Oh, these people are... But beautifully, nowadays, some things are popping up.
Yeah. Things that I didn't even know about.
I remember I sent a couple of songs.
Yes. When I watch them and I read them, I'm like, wait a minute. Like, I didn't know that the Benin people had their own wall.
Or their own street lights.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That they had the wall.
The China wall.
Exactly.
And the Benin wall. I think the Benin wall was even more elaborate, stronger. And the Chinese wall is started to have
been the longest
and highest, or something that you can even see it from outer space or something like that. As in, if you're really high up, you can still see. The Benin wall was destroyed by the British colonialists, for whatever reasons. We don't want to go into all of that, but it existed. And it's documented somewhere. Sadly, it wasn't even documented in our own. Some of these things were getting them outside.
Yeah, we didn't know.
I remember a high-ranking NTA official, NTA being Nigerian Television Authority official, who was, his name has been appended to so many programs and so many documentaries, and was telling us how he had to go all the way to Italy to go get a certain recording of a documentary of Nigerian history. We didn't even have it in Nigeria. He had to go to Italy to go get it. And he was telling us how those guys preserved their stuff. The library where they went to get it, you had to drive a small go-kart, like all those golf cars, round inside the library. It was that big, and they were preserving our own history in their library that we did not have. A lot of these documentaries now, you find, if you go to NTA and a few of us, they'll tell you, oh, they just have maybe 1 or 2 episodes of XYZ program, the rest gone.
And then we wonder why other cultures are doing better.
When you look at even the most recent history, a lot of people don't even know that we had a TV station before France did. Nigeria had a TV station before a lot of countries did.
Wow.
A lot. So what happened?
That's the question.
Now, when you tell our children things like this, especially positive things, you are reinforcing a belief system that, look, you guys are achievers. You guys have greatness in you.
Yes.
Unlike the current narrative now, where even we are the first and the fastest, the quickest. to downgrade
who we are,
what we are, who we stand for, and all that, and celebrate. I say celebrate because, I mean, what do you call people who are quick to point out negatives about themselves? Now, we do all of that, and yet you expect to go out of the country and be celebrated when you yourself are not celebrating yourself. The positive things about you, the beautiful things about you that your ancestors and your forefathers have achieved, you deliberately trample on them, or even don't even know to celebrate them. Then the negatives that they are also pushing on you because they have an agenda, you too, you carry it on your head. The ones they did not even see, you say, come, have you seen, have you, you know, like a child who is going around talking about his family and presenting his family in a bad light. And then you expect other that people, you go to that next door neighbor and they should give you royal treatment based on the rubbish you've been saying about yourself, because your family is you are part of that family. You know, so yes, some things in our history, they're not worthy of emulation, and we should learn to be able to sift those things and say, okay, these ones were wrong and this is what it led us to, and so we should not do it again, and that's why we're where we are today. But these ones, fantastic, and these are our people who achieved in these things. These are our heroes. Do you even know that if you say, okay, who are our heroes now, and you ask the average teenager, very few of them can point out real heroes, true heroes. So if there are no heroes that we can say we want to point out in a society, who do you look up to? What values are you celebrating? Because heroes are people who embody those values. So what real values are we celebrating? Money, acquisition of material things. Now we have learned to liken self-worth to the ability to acquire material stuff. Status,
cars,
you know,
clothes, bags.
And everybody who knows the truth knows that those are the least of anything to equate. And I've had
and they push those things to us.
I've had crazy arguments with people who you think should know, and they'll tell you, hey, even in our songs, it's about this money. Hey, this, and nobody is saying money is not good, but money is a tool. Money is a tool, but most of us now, for lack of a better word, worship money. That's really sad, because for money you will do anything. There's nothing you stand for. There's nothing you say you want to hold your head high up for. As long as there's money, you're good to go. And we see it in the leadership, we see it in the followership. Now, history has a direct bearing. The learning of history, the teaching of history in our schools at secondary and primary levels has a direct bearing on how we think as a nation. So if we want to think properly and not this crooked thinking that is going on now, because we have a lot of, there was one book I used to read back in the day, I think I just entered the university then, Straight and Crooked Thinking. I'm going to look for that book again. I hope I can still find it. And then you understand that in Nigeria, we're used to crooked thinking, and we think it's normal.
But that wasn't how we used to think.
Well, we need to now go back and look very well, but I don't think so too. I don't think that was how we used to think, but that's the norm now. You know, and because we're not thinking straight, when you now want to elect your leaders, you know, the leaders and the leadership find it easy to push certain narratives to us, because they know that you don't even have our thinking faculty beamed on the right target. We are thinking other things where other things hold importance, see the issues that we throw up during election year and during the time of election campaigns. Very funny issues. Meanwhile, the real issues of welfare, of the people, security and all of that, we sweep them under the carpet. And then we start going tribal, we go religious, we go all those funny things. And they whip up those sentiments more so that you guys can, they know that's how you think.
You guys?
At times I don't want to identify. At times.
Oh, wow.
So, and it all boils down to us understanding who we are as a people. It's so critical.
When we say as a people, because it's Black History Month, and I'm in a couple of African groups and all that, and I see the banter, I see the agitation, but it's beyond just agitating. For me, it's taking deliberate steps. I think the average Black person still has the slavery mentality. Like, we've been beaten down so badly that it's almost like we don't even identify with the us in us. And without even realizing it, we still do that today. We'd rather, and I'm not saying leaving the country is wrong, I'm not saying that, but we'd rather take deference or prefer to be in this community, standing with a white-skinned person or something. I remember those, but it's a lot better now. I remember those days when we were growing up, and you see like a Caucasian pass, and you actually see people, kids shouting, "Ain't going to be all right." But at least, thank God, now we don't really have that anymore, like it used to be. And then if we don't get this generation, these children, to begin to understand who they are, that they are princes, they are princesses in their own right from where they come from, their royalty. They're not slaves. They're not second-class citizens. They're not less. We were talking about the Ifa thing. Like, we really had our own math systems. We had the things we were doing. We had the architects. We had the builders. We had systems that were working. Mm-hmm. We need to begin to tell the kids, this is the richness you come from. And well, I'm not sure that I shared it with you or you shared it with me. The video of, I think it was Four or something, I'm not sure, who went somewhere, and the white guy was trying to belittle him before introducing him, and then gave him the floor to introduce himself. He said, luckily for him, he had done a little research on his heritage and his background. And when it was time to introduce, he introduced himself not just as a Yoruba guy, but as a prince, taking it right back down to his Benin ancestry. And for me, that was beautiful. And when I hear the Oyo say things like, I'm a massacre, I'm a murder, what I'm about to say, please bear with me. I'm a Yoruba girl, bear with me. Ajishebe Yolari.
Ajishebe
Yolari. And I like to come from I always like that statement.
Which means people copy
exactly
us in Oyo.
Exactly.
Oyo.
We don't copy anybody's father. When my dad used to say it, that was the part that used to chip me. Like, you don't copy anybody's father.
Yeah, it celebrated originality in the people, and they prided themselves on being original. Now, you can't be chanting that kind of mantra as a child and then wake up
one day
and getting joy in copying and pasting in your life. You know, and that's one of the things we're saying, that people need to understand that, look, a lot of things came from us. They took it, they refined it, they repackaged it and brought it back, and we're shouting, wow, wow, wow.
Yeah.
But if you know that my fathers, my forefathers, my forebearers, my ancestors were the originators of these things, then when you bring it back to me, I say, stop there. That thing. You doesn't deceive me.
I hear the Igbo.
I know where this comes from.
That's right.
You know.
That's right.
But a lot of wool has been pulled over our eyes, and a a lot of us believe that we're a useless race. I hear people say it, you know, and it's so sad, it's so painful that they sold you a script
and then you bought it.
Deep
bought it
into that script, and they are the ones benefiting from it.
You're acting somebody else's script.
The problem with us is we don't even learn, or we've not learned to truly institutionalize things. We've not learned to truly build systems that work and make sure that there are checks and balances to ensure that that system is continually perpetuated.
Speaking on systems continually perpetuated, the Jews will forever be a people whose culture can never be taken away from them.
Though you are going too far. What do you want to say about the Indians?
Thank you.
What do you want to say about the Chinese? What do you want to say about the Japanese?
Because they just
you know, they don't joke with
they
that.
just say it. They
Even
just
as much
say
as
it.
the British tried to colonize the Indians and all that. Yeah, they did colonize them, but there was a certain aspect of their lifestyle, the culture and all that, that those guys just held on to until today. Is still there, you know. But we,
like we just said, hands up, and we did it. Yeah.
The first thing that happened to us was we decidedly, deliberately, intentionally started behaving like our colonialists. Some of us started doing our hair like, you know, just to make it look like them.
Make it flat,
started, you know, if you were not wearing a suit, you were not a big man. You were a local man if you were always wearing your buba and shokoto, you know, or whatever native attire. Funny enough, our early heroes, Enaho, Awolowo, Tafawa Balewa, and the people in that time, Zik, Alko, wore their traditional stuff. So I don't know how that thing seeped in, that you had to, you know, look the part, wear a suit and all of that. By the time Cyprian Ekwensi, was it? No, not Cyprian Ekwensi. Chinua Achebe was writing, I think, A Man of the People, or was it No Longer At? He's one of those, I can't remember which one exactly. And it was talking about the character of, was it Okonkwo's grandson now, or was it Okonkwo's son, the one who went abroad and came back and was to address his people, and he came dressed down, and you know, Chinua Achebe wrote that, oh, that was one of the first mistakes he made, that he didn't come looking like a big man who had just come from the UK, you know, his clothing, and that was a reflection of what was going on in the society at that time. We had ascribed importance and intelligence and all sorts. Even now, today, if you do not speak good English, then you can't really be intelligent. That's at the back. I mean, think about it. Even you are guilty. I'm guilty. You don't. Somebody comes to talk to you now, and the person is scattering English language left, right, and center. You almost do not put that person in any serious form or level of intelligence at all because of the language.
True.
But if it was a Frenchman who came and says, oh, sorry, I cannot speak the English. I try to speak it, but you understand? Yes. They say, don't worry, I understand. I don't get. You know, you are so quick.
You're checking a table right now.
You are so quick to wave that aside. But that guy is speaking his vernacular now. According to a Frenchman, his vernacular. Your Yoruba is vernacular to the English. But to you, is what? Vernacular too? Should it be?
Wait, would you blame us?
Yes.
No. Because when we were in school,
you cannot live your life.
When we were in school,
for what you tolerate and continue to live and perpetuate.
Please help me here. When we were in school, what were we flogged for? Write names of anyone speaking in words in vernacular. And what's vernacular now? It's the Yoruba.
And the Igbo and
the Igbo and the Hausa, yes.
Be that as it may, you are older, you know better. Has that changed your actions? No. Have you gone out to do any form of advocacy or any? No.
That's what we are doing.
So you are sustaining that thought pattern. That's the truth.
Should we switch to Yoruba now on this podcast? You speak Benin as Yoruba.
I'm not saying that English as a lingua franca is bad or anything.
No, we agree on that. Yeah.
But I'm one of those people who say, why don't we use pidgin instead? That's
yeah, big on that.
It's homegrown,
yes.
And I've always been pushing for that, and you get why. Let me put it like way.
You get why, man.
You get why.
But it go make people laugh. It go make people laugh.
No, not necessarily.
You know why? I watched a video yesterday by Pastor Paul Edge. Pastor Edge was praying, and then he was in a community doing an outreach, and he was praying in English, and the interpreter was speaking correct
pidgin.
You could see that Mazenete was struggling not laugh. At some point he gave up and started laughing. The whole audience, the whole commission started laughing as well, because the things the guy was saying, it's what you hear in a skit.
Okay, let me say this. I understand what you're saying, and it's happened to me before. But in my early years, when I would go on holidays and be watching NTA Benin, they used to have this on Sundays, this Christian programs where people come and preach, and then service on TV. And there was one particular one I watched, and they had this interpreter interpreting in pidgin. I was rolling on the floor. But you know what? Second Sunday, third Sunday, fourth Sunday.
I got used to it.
I got used to it. And I was actually understanding. Not that, I speak good English, I understand English, but the pidgin was giving me a deeper meaning. And so now, when I'm reading my Bible,
you read in pidgin.
When I get to a point where that thing, especially the King James, speaketh, saith, doeth, dust, all those things, I just switch to pidgin. I read it in pidgin in my head, and I get the meaning better. And that's one of the reasons. This is the first time I'm saying this to you. That's one of the reasons why I'm always at it. Push this thing in pidgin. At least we understand it. Yeah. And there's this guy who's doing a beautiful job of breaking down pidgin, grammatically on Instagram. Forgotten his name now, but he picks one aspect of pidgin, a verb, and he says, continuous tenses, and he's telling you English on one side, pidgin on one side.
Wow.
And so without even knowing it, we've actually formed
our own
lingua franca.
Yeah.
But we've refused to totally adopt it. But it's getting better. Because before this dispensation, maybe let's just say like 10, 15 years back, there were very few pidgin adverts or pidgin programs on TV. When did radio stations like Wazobia and Co start? Before that time, it was almost seen as an impossible thing to do. Do you know it took a non-Nigerian
No, when you told me that thing, it bust my brain.
And then CD, it was like people were hungry for, and so I keep saying, so what are we doing? Somebody had to come from outside to show us the way, and yet we're still not. There's only one aspect that the comedians are making a kill doing comedy in pidgin. It's almost impossible to imagine normal English
for skits,
for skits or for stand-up comedy, and somebody will just stay in front of an audience and just be speaking English, and I'll be laughing. It won't work. That's what most people will tell you. Although there are good comedians like that who will just speak English as well. You see that flavor, the pidgin, because it hits home. It hits home. So anyway, we've jumped from one thing to another, to another. But what we're trying to say is this: we need to go back to our roots.
Understand who we are.
Celebrate who we are. We need to understand and how do I put it now? Enlarge, magnify those beautiful things that made us who we are in time past, and continue to, celebrate them and look for modern ways to bring those things to the fore, and have our children emulate them and even flavor it some more. Because if you see, there's no true solution that is not homegrown.
True.
Every solution must be homegrown for it to be as effective as can be.
Sure.
Even if you are copying a system outside, you must bring it back home and then tweak it till it is speaking to us directly. But what we do is we just bring everything we see out there back into Nigeria, hook, line, and sinker,
and it doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
It can't work.
We just struggle with it, and then at best we're managing a second-rate solution. So history is at the center of all of this.
It's our
celebrating
culture.
who we are, loving ourselves for who we truly are, and disassociating ourselves from that narrative that they have sold to us, and us saying, who are we truly? What for a long time I've believed in when they say, oh, black man has always been killing himself, or the black men killed themselves, they sold themselves into slavery, they did this, they did that. That's a white man's narrative, and I'll prove it to you. What they did was they just looked at all of us and lumped us together. Black.
We're not all the same.
But we're not the same.
We're not.
We are Ghanaians. We are
South Africans.
We're South Africans.
We are Congolese. We're Zambians. We're Ivorians. We're Togolese. Yes. We are.
And even in Nigeria,
we are not all the same. We are not the same.
We're Igbo. We're Kanuri.
Yes.
Tiv. We're
Ijoma. Yeah. And even among the so-called Yoruba, we're still not all the same.
Now, but what they've done is say, oh, black. Now, take it to them. Because you have a Danish white-skinned man, is he the same as an American or a Russian or a British man or an Icelandic or a Finnish man or a Scot? They are all different. With different, a Croatian or a Turkish person, and then you say, oh, your brothers.
They're all white.
They are all white.
No.
So they know how to distinguish themselves, but they lump us together and say...
And we now lump ourselves together.
And even now, when you say you want to tell somebody, if you are abroad and you say, so I'm going to Africa, as if Africa is one destination. You understand? And it's when you understand yourself as a people, these things help you clearly mark out, distinguish, and say, these are distinct people.
Yeah.
These are
with their culture, with their systems, with their standards.
This is their way of doing things.
Yes.
This is the belief system that sustained them to this point. Some of these things, okay, let's do away with it because it's not progressive. But you see these ones, oh wow, we need to celebrate these ones. We need to magnify. We need to teach ourselves, or we teach ourselves, and stuff like that. And so we would like to appeal to
teachers,
not just teachers, because not in their hands. The school system, the syllabus and co has to
the education,
be rejigged in such a way that these things are given top priority.
Yeah, but as we're talking, and I know some people don't like when I do this, but as we're talking, the Jewish people kept coming back into my head, in the sense that the Jewish people had an instruction to tell each generation, tell the next generation. It wasn't put on the school system. It was put on the family and the community units. This generation, teach the next generation what happened. He said, if your children ask, why are you doing this? Then you tell them, this is why you are doing this. You said your grandfather told you some stories and you've not forgotten them. My father used to do the same and expose me to certain things. I saw my dad, he would see someone with a certain tribal mark and he could tell you where that person is from. I can still see those tribal marks around in Oyo State and I can pick. Because I think beyond the school system, the family unit, parents need to begin to or go back, get off the phone, get off the games, and have those what we used to call tales by moonlight.
Okay, you know why I'm advocating for the school system? It's the quickest and the fastest way. You know why? These people that you are saying should teach the next generation, teach them what? Can you give what you don't have? Can you give what you don't have? They themselves don't have it. So what are they teaching? What are they passing down?
It's okay.
They themselves don't even believe in it.
The matter.
So if we institutionalize it, if we do more documentaries, I mean real documentaries, some of these funny things that we see, you know, out there, you know, real documentaries, dig deeper and all of that, and let this thing become a national wildfire, spread, anyway, and all of that. Then the parents can now take it and then do a drill down, you know, bring it down to bite-sized information bits for the children and all of that. But you see, it has to start from that level, and then we hope it will trickle down and it becomes a way of life.
Yeah. So whether you are Kanuri and you have your culture, whether you are TV or you're a Doma, whether you are from Plateau State, Shandam or Langtan or Pangshin, wherever you're from, whether you are Ijebu or Ijesha, Ishan, it's probably Ishan, or you are Egba, wherever you are Ekiti, wherever you're from, it's not just about the colorful attire. It's not about when it's time for Ojude Festival that we now come out.
That's a good one.
It's a good start, yes, but
it's deeper.
It's deeper than that. You see, I would love it if that Ojude Festival. Ooh, when those guys come out. Ojude Oba. You see, you have to forgive me. When they come out in stage and composure, can lessons go on? Can we draw out lessons? It's not just about the whole showmanship and all that. Those are great avenues to begin to teach and have conversations that will help the next generation. Because the last festival last year that sparked
all the
come on, my head is even swayed as I'm remembering it. Let's have those conversations. Let's begin to teach the Ijebu people what it really means to be Ijebu. And it's not about the Akagom thing. No, it's beyond that. Or the Egbas. Wherever you're from, regardless of that, it's Black History Month.
Yeah.
And it will be a good time to have this conversation. That's why we're having it. It will also be a good time to say to the Education Board, Ministry of Education, to institutionalize history. And not just as a side thing, but
there's either a government agency, national orientation.
I was about to call them out.
You know, those are the things they should
be doing. Yes,
right now.
The core values, the culture, the ethics.
If there's a synergy between the Ministry of Education
and NOA
and the National Orientation Agency, and the few other Ministry of Information, you know, all of them coming together and say, let's drive this. Let's put X, Y, Z things in place. And, you know, I don't think, and you see, it's not so hard though. In every local government, there are kings, there are chieftains, there are people who are still repository of this,
custodians of history, of our knowledge, our culture.
How do we harness all these people at those local levels and then feed into the national, you know,
anyway, has 770
there's actually a way.
Yes.
You know, so in conclusion, I just think these are things we should start looking at. And if you have ideas, you know, as to how we can achieve these things quicker, better, more effectively, hey, share with us. So we're asking again, don't forget to like, comment, share, especially the comment, and then of course subscribe. Till we come your way, same time, next week, on another episode. It's bye from myself and Adeayo.